I want you to know that, these are very interesting times in Albany. Assemblyman Molinaro can tell you that. The reason why we're here, honestly, is to get your input. We held one of these. I see Warren Lucas, who came to the one that we had in Putnam County, town supervisor of North Salem. I need your input, and you have a very good team to work together this the year to try to get things done. If you remember during the campaign, I wasn't this nasally. I either have bubonic plague or Ebola, so keep within 10 feet of me. But I've had it for 5 days, so I shouldn't be I shouldn't be contagious any longer. So I'm going to hand it off to Mark. I'm going to let him talk a little bit about the various issues in his chamber. But we're here, most importantly, to hear from you.
Greg and I think over the course of the last several years have fostered a good relationship. We've been working as hard as we can to be of some assistance, certainly to those of you in local government, but obviously and most importantly, our offices work closely together to provide services to the constituents we both represent. So let me also, though, commend the senator for doing this. I think too often people get elected, and then once they begin their tenure, they forget about the people they represent. So having these kinds of conversations, whether it be in my district or as he's had in other members' districts as well, this is absolutely important and valuable.
I think we feel that there's been a shift in focus and putting local government under the microscope as that we're the cause of the problem. Local government, we've said consistently, we believe very strongly, is the leanest form of government anybody's going to get. Like Wayne said, in my town, we're approximately 9% of the total tax bill. Well, the Arlington School District remains 72%, I believe is the number today. We're not saying no to a tax cap. That doesn't make sense. We're saying a well thought out tax cap.
We've got to focus on cutting cost, and if he really does it, then tax cap, imposed or not, we've started to move the state back into a position of being more effective. But when I chaired the budget committee in Dutchess, we asked two questions. What are we buying, or excuse me, three questions. What are we buying? How much are we paying for it? And what's the metric we're going to use to analyze whether or not we got it? Albany doesn't ask those questions. So at the very least, if we're applying that standard, we can start driving down costs.
And I know, Senator and Assemblyman, you guys haven't forgotten about the MTA tax. Your continued efforts on that are greatly appreciated. We know you're working behind the scenes to help us, and we appreciate it.
Things like the tax cap, which you've been fighting for a long time, things like talking about the Triborough Amendment, real property tax relief, reinstating the STAR program, a balanced budget amendment. These things are actually on the agenda in New York State, and that's a huge sense of progress that we're there. Now, on the tax cap, yes, the Senate passed a tax cap. We also passed unfunded mandate relief. I think collectively what you see in the legislature is a know-you-know-what moment saying this thing may actually pass, okay? But I think also what you have collectively, and then the reality of that tax cap is beginning to seep in. I know that in my conference, and I'm not going to speak for Mark, he does a good enough job himself, but I'm sure in his conference and in that legislature as well, we all get the fact, the last thing politically that we would want is to pass a tax cap and then the municipalities to come back in mass and say all the bad things are happening are your fault. Right? I mean, we certainly would not want that to happen. At the same time, what we don't want to happen, let's not allow the conversation to devolve where we're fighting against good possible legislation that could finally get our spending in line. Specifically, that tax cap proposal that was passed in the Senate was more to put a stake in the sand and say, look, we're committed as a Senate majority, we're committed to passing a tax cap. Now, the tax cap that was passed should absolutely be tweaked and have a massive overhaul to get it to where it needs to be. For instance, a lot of municipalities are doing a great job controlling your budgets. We really need to focus on the school budget, so maybe we focus only on school budgets. The other thing in the bill that we passed is that it only takes a 2/3 majority of your board to overturn it. So there is a safety valve there. Maybe it should even be larger. But I just want you to know, as you know, many times politicians, they nod their heads and say that they heard you. In this specific instance on the tax cap, Albany has heard the message. You're not going to see a tax cap passed that does not include serious unfunded mandate relief and serious safety valves. And I can tell you that solidly that Albany has heard the message with your concerns with the tax cap.